Hello. Welcome everyone to the second lecture of Python. In this lecture, we will be covering the basics of how to, in the first place, install the software in your devices and how to work around with that as well. So we'll not be using the Python as in, the application, but we'll using an integrated, environment. So why integrated environment? Because it will actually help us to do a lot more. It will have a lot more things to add in our models, and it will be relatively easier to learn as well. And I'll be telling you what exactly you have to do with this entire lecture. I'm your tutor for the day. If you have any doubts, you can contact me. So let's just dive in. If you can see my screen right now, I am on the website anaconda.com /download. From here, you actually have to add your email address here, and you will be able to get the link to download the distribution in your software. You will get the distribution, you will download it, and you will install it just like you install any other application in your devices. For me, I'm using a Windows laptop, so I will install it likewise, and then it will look like this. There will be an icon, and you can see an anaconda.navigator will actually pop up. So I have installed it, I've received it, I've installed everything, and now I'm actually just working around with that. So you can see there are a lot of tools in front of you. Majorly, Jupyter Lab, Jupyter Notebook are somewhat similar, and Spider is another integrated development environment which we can use. But majorly we'll be working on this, and other things will also be there which we'll be covering slowly. But I prefer once you actually install Anaconda Navigator, you actually go to environment and you see what all is there. You go to the learning, and then you can learn from you can learn from all of these courses which are available. So it's best that you learn from these open sources. But if you have any doubts, you can also get involved in the communities inside Anaconda. So there's Anaconda community. There is one community for Matplotlib forum. There is for NumPy. There is for Numba forum. We have one. Along with that we have some more. And if you search over the internet, you can find more. We will be working with the home section for now, and I have selected all applications and all softwares. I want to work with softwares alone. So when you will install Anaconda.navigator, you will not only get this software, but if I'm, let's say, searching for Jupyter here, you'll be able to see that I can kind of run the Jupyter Notebook directly as software itself. There's an app installed in my laptop. For now, for the purpose of this lecture, we'll work around with only Jupyter Notebook. So if you see, we have Jupyter Notebook here, Jupyter Lab here. I will start with Jupyter Lab, and then let's see how it progresses. I have clicked on launch. It will take some time for Jupyter Lab to open up. Okay. There is, Jupyter Notebook started, so there's no issue. We can, Jupyter Lab started. It is connecting to the server now, and you can see that under Jupyter Lab, we are in the home tab. It's taking some time. Okay, all of this might be very different for you as compared to me, because I have been using Jupyter Lab for some time, and I have different folders to put all of my data sets. For you, there might be very less folders, but there's no issue. We'll create the folder that we really want to. First, before we actually start with anything, this is the Jupyter Notebook that we just opened up, right? You can see, these are the names that we have over here. But we really wanted to just work with Jupyter Lab, which is this one. I will just delete this one for now. Yes, leave the side, and you can see. Okay, I have some files here which we don't need to focus on right now. We can see what all is running and what all files do we have. So let's say I'm going to any other folder and opening up any file in the environment of Jupyter. You will be able to see the running files here, and you can again stop the running files, work around with that. For now, for the purpose of this lecture, we need to create the first folder, right? So just like how I have made different folders for different things, I'll actually create one more folder. So if you can see that if I click on new, there are some things that I can add. I can add a notebook, which we will be adding, but inside a folder, so that it looks cleaner for us. We don't want all the notebooks to be just right there in front of us. We want it to be in a particular folder. So I'll just go click on new folder. I'll write chapter 4. So chapter 2, data analytics with Python. Or you know what, instead of writing chapter 2 data analytics with Python, I'll just go ahead and I'll write data analytics with Python. Enter. Inside that I can create more folders. So if I'll double click, it will open up, and now I want to have another folder, and I will write chapter 2 here instead. And under chapter 2, I will create a notebook which will open up, in the new space. Now you can see under data analytics with Python, under my Jupyter server root, data analytics with Python, chapter 2, I have a new notebook which we'll be working with. And why do we call it a notebook? Because it looks like a notebook. We have different lines where we can write the codes, and we can run it the way we want to, and we can move up, down based on whatever it is. But for now, don't focus on what all codes we'll be writing and what all is there in Jupyter Notebook. Just understand how to open Jupyter Notebook, how to work along with the software in the first place. So instead of writing untitled this is the extension for Python files, Python Notebook. This stands for Python Notebook, PYNB. And I'd like to change the name to, let's say, introduction, and I'll rename it here. And if I'm going to refresh this, you can see the name changed to introduction. So we can see that both of these files are actually linked. That is under home when we are at, this is the Jupyter Lab, this is Jupyter Notebook. This is how Jupyter Notebook looks like. And if I'm clicking here, you can see I can write whatever I want. I can write my name, and if I'm clicking on enter, I can create more space for myself. And there's some things that we need to work on with, and how to add more lines, because you must have seen how codes look like in general, but it's just never a one line thing, right? And you'll see how we can add many more lines. Let's say I want to write just introduction, like the word introduction in Jupyter Notebook. I don't want it to be interpreted as a code. So we'll try writing introduction just like that, and let's see, introduction. And to run a particular code, we click on shift plus enter. So if I'm doing shift plus enter, you can see there's a name error. There is the name introduction is not defined. There's nothing like that we have in a folder. So this is being we are having this error because it is interpreted as a code right now, rather than let's say a comment. And sometimes when we are writing a very huge code block, now code block contains so many codes bounded together, so we get a particular function done that we wanted to. And to have introduction as a word, because sometimes when we write the entire code block, you might want to write comments in between, so that the person who's actually able to open the code block, he should be able to understand what is actually happening inside the entire code block. And to help with that, we'll just do a hashtag sign before any word, and it will not be interpreted as code anymore, and we'll have it as a single word. And you can see there is no error now. And this is you can see whenever we are working with something, it will actually be highlighted like this, and whenever we are actually running something, you can see it won't be highlighted like that. You can add many more lines above, below. You can see we have these options. You can delete the lines from here. You can add a line above. You can add another code line below. You can move around with these arrow keys, right? You can create a duplicate. Let's say I'm going here and I want to create a duplicate. I can create a duplicate of the code block. Sometimes you require that. And then we can open up files, we can save it, we can download it, we can work around with so many things, and then we can edit, view, run. We'll be working with all of this, of how we are actually going to integrate all of these options inside our Jupyter Notebook. But for now, this is exactly how we are able to download Anaconda, how we can open up Jupyter Notebook, and how we can create our first notebook. Now there's another thing which I want you to know. That's how to upload files, because in the next lecture we'll be working with these files. And to do that, I will actually upload. So if I'm going to upload, I want index file to get uploaded. So you can see index.csv is right here. And why do we need to upload it? Because whenever we are working with data, you can see this, this introduction file will open up again. If I double click here, I have it here. Let's say I'm working with, some data in my, Python environment. I need to insert it first in Jupyter before working with it. I cannot just say, okay, it is saved in my computer. You can just, find it in my computer and then do it. We don't do it. We actually insert in our Jupyter, environment first, and then we work around with the same. And that's why I have added that, particularly in chapter 2. So whenever in future, in the next lecture, whenever we'll start working with the data set, we know that we have added index.csv in a chapter 2 file, right? So let's see how we can work around with that. I'll rename this chapter 2 to something else in the next lecture. And I hope you were able to understand how we can download and how we can start working with the Jupyter in the first place. That would be it from my end. I'll see you in the next lecture.